So we do have a quorum. The three of us are here. So that's our attendance for this evening. Before we move on to the approval of minutes, Mark, do you have an agenda item that you would like to
Yes,
add to this evening's meeting?
yes, Mr. Chair. I would like to respectfully request an adjustment to the agenda for the school committee to consider a leave of absence, an unpaid leave of absence request by a teacher, please.
And I'll put that under action items.
Thank you.
Yeah. Okay, great. Thank you. So we'll move on to the approval of minutes for June 3rd. If I can get a motion to approve those minutes.
So moved. Second.
Okay, we have a motion from Kate, second from Teresa. I don't have any questions about those minutes. Sounds like you guys do not either. So we'll take that to a vote. So we'll start with Kate.
Approved.
Teresa.
Approved.
And I approve as well. So that is unanimous. Thank you. Public comment. I am unaware of any public comment that has come in at all.
I'm not aware of any, Todd. I checked with Selena, and of course, if we receive any, we'll report that out at the next meeting.
Okay, great. Thank you. So we'll move on to reports and updates. I'd just like to make one comment on that. With Charlie and Heather both having excused absences today, I'd like to move our food service program update to a following meeting, if that's okay with everybody. Okay, great. So principals report, Gloria.
Muted, Gloria, you're muted.
Boy, I've gotten rusty, haven't I? I have a verbal principal's report for you. Even though there aren't a lot of people at the school, there certainly is a lot going on right now. We have over 70 teachers, I believe, on the island that are involved in summer instructional grants. And I know there are quite a few teachers at our school that are involved in those, from working to have a more inclusive community in our math program in middle school, to my middle school team. We've been meeting weekly to develop an advisory program, which will help us work with students, their social emotional needs as we head back to school. I'm pretty excited about that work, and it's been, I don't know, I'm super proud and really impressed with the teachers who are committing so much time over the summer working to prepare for our upcoming school year. I'm also participating in a kindergarten think tank, I guess, advisory group. So meeting with primary teachers throughout the district and administrators and Julie Meltzer to really pay attention to the needs of our youngest learners and how we prepare for all of the variables that are headed our way during this upcoming school year. So we're having 3 meetings, and our second one's coming up tomorrow. And I'm really thankful for that time and for Julie's commitment to our littlest learners. It's a tough time to be entering school for the first time. Our school volunteers, some of our staff are still out there. They're delivering backpack meals, food program to our students on Wednesdays that were signed up. So the backpack program is still going. Our summer maintenance crew is doing a remarkable job at our school, and had to move a few classrooms, and they can set the room back up, even a mirror image of itself if it's on the other side of the hall. They're really thoughtful. It's very clean. Their attention to detail is just remarkable. And we're, I think, in a good position to really have a little bit of time to sit and figure out cleaning protocols and our plan for back to school. So I'm thankful to them. Our groundskeeper, Bruce Tripp, is hard at work. Our grounds look great. Our garden is looking beautiful. Miss Patty has planted the garden, and people are just stopping by all the time, peeking in the garden. It's a thing to behold. We have a high school student who will be working outside with Mr. Tripp beginning next week as a groundskeeper assistant. Student will have a job coach with them, and I've talked with Dr. Gauss about this, and we had some organizational and planning meetings and requirements around safety precautions, and the student will be outside, won't be in the building at all. And I'm really excited to be able to provide that opportunity for a former Mustang to come back to help out at our school. Yeah, it's awesome. And I don't know if anything else. And I got the band back together. So my after a few weeks off, I assembled our operations team, which involves Mr. Sargent, Mr. Opalwall, Ms. Fernald, Tara McKernan, Andrea Howell, Chef Emily, and Marina Frederick and Angelique Hodgson from our office. And so we get together and follow the same groupings that are happening in the superintendent's advisory group. And so I invited also Kate St. Dennis to join us. And so we've divided and distributed tasks between us. And so we are ready and wrapping our heads around our back to school planning. So I feel pretty good about that. That group of staff were vital in the success of our remote learning this past spring. So I'm pretty proud of all their hard work too. And summer school started. We handed out the devices last week, and summer school started on Monday. And I probably have 10 teachers maybe involved in different types of summer programming for our students. And so our kids are still connected. Does anybody have any questions?
Great. Thank you, Gloria. Questions? It looks like Teresa does.
You're
I just
welcome.
have one. You said that one classroom was moved across the hall, looking exactly the same. Was it moved just so you could clean the opposite room, or was it moved for the fall? It's just, I was a
That's
little bit confused too.
Yeah,
you
that's a good question, Teresa. So as I planned for some unknowns, you know, one model that some schools use is they have younger students go for a week and older students go for a week, and how we try to work in teams and have students that are near an age together. And so we moved the 4th grade to be near the 3rd grade downstairs. So that was a deliberate curriculum decision, so that if we did need to say shut off the whole upstairs of the school and just use the downstairs for 1 week, that would be a possibility. I'm just trying to be as proactive as I can about how we're logistically set up. So
Okay, thank you. I just was a little bit confused when you said the
Sure.
exact room across the hall. I just was like, okay.
no, they're pretty remarkable though. Our custodians, Renee Becker and Jason Fontaine, have been doing a really nice job, and they really take great pride in their work, and it's a big move, you know, to move classrooms, and they do a nice job for the teachers. So
Thank you.
Thank you. Any other questions? No. Thanks, Gloria.
you bet.
Thank you. So Mark, we have an update from you regarding our safe return to school.
Yes. This is a big topic on the minds of everybody. And I think what I'd have to say, to be brief, is that the information is fluid. All options are on the table. We have an incredible group of people that represent our students, our teachers, our support staff, our parents, the expertise within our community, our board, working really hard each week to plan for the safe return to school for our students. And that's our goal, and that's our expectation. What that looks like, when I say fluid, all options are on the table, and I don't have anything specific to report to you. One thing I have been told is that it's really important to reach out to parents and students and staff regularly to give them any pieces of information that we're considering. So we have a meeting tomorrow night. Excuse me. There have been several subcommittee meetings. I think the biggest piece of information that I could give you that's tangible at this point is what Gloria just said, is that the work that we're going to do to incorporate the safe return to schools is really going to be building based. Our nurses, our teachers, our support staff, our principals, our custodians, our food service, all of those people that know our kids, know our buildings, know the expectation. We're going to be able to provide recommendations ultimately to the board. But the real work will begin with what the needs of our students are and our staff are to reopen our schools. And that's our goal. I'm pleased to report, obviously, the data and the virus will dictate how and when we reopen. But right now we're looking at information that looks at zones of proximity for the virus. And at the end of the day, as we look at the data and how that's impacting our communities, that will dictate what school reopening looks like. I don't know if there are specific questions by board members, or Todd, if you want to offer anything, but I hope to have some more details after tomorrow night's meeting, because we're looking for recommendations to come to the school committee in early August.
Are there any questions? Teresa?
Just one, you say all the options are on the table. Not that you describe what each option is. How many options are there that you guys are trying to weed through and determine the best plan in the care of the students and the staff?
That's a great clarifying question. I'll try to be really succinct. I think there's a multitude, but in short, Teresa, there's remote learning, which is not our preferred option. There is full-on return to school, which is our goal, and that probably, or not probably, that will require some modifications in terms of what we were doing prior to March 13th. And then there's a hybrid, which could incorporate the two. And then there's a possible fourth option, and that is we may be full on with a direct instruction and back in our schools, but we may have zones of proximity or exposure that cause us to go remote. So we have to be prepared for that as well. When I say we're working on all those options, there are some things that I don't want to minimize that might layer in between.
Okay, thanks.
Sure.
Mark, recently there was a survey released by the DOE,
Yes.
and I may have missed it in all the emails going back and forth, but will that data be something that you will have access to?
Absolutely. Not only I, but board members, the entire state. So just to clarify, Todd, thanks. That's a good point too. There's a lot of surveys going out. There's a DOE survey, there's school surveys. And I think on Monday night, I'm going to ask Dr. Meltzer to clarify the different surveys, what they mean and where they're coming from, because people will get confused. And there's certainly a DOE survey that I'm aware of, Maine Department of Education, but we've also solicited at the local level survey information. And then I'm aware of somebody, I want to be careful as I say this, I think there's another survey that's emanating outside of the DOE from the legislature, but I want to be careful as I say that. So a lot of surveys out there, and where they're going and who they report to, I think we need to clarify.
Okay, thank you. Anything else? No? Okay. So next on our reports and updates is update from subcommittees, which usually includes our policy committee. And policy, I know, has been rescheduled and postponed as we've worked with other issues that have risen.
Yeah.
So
at the end of the day, Todd, we were really trying to hold one, but the reality is with everything, our priorities right now are returning to school, and we're also very active with working with students in the community on anti-racism issues. So we haven't had a chance to have a policy meeting.
yeah, okay, that's good. So are there any other questions or comments about reports? No, okay. So we will move on to discussion items if we have any discussion items. But let me just skip for a second back to the top of our agenda because I omitted to ask if there were any questions about the voucher that was circulated June 25th, I think, or so, and was completed and approved. But were there any questions with that? No. Okay. Sorry, I admitted that at the beginning of the meeting. So discussion items, we don't have any listed for this evening.
No, but Todd, the only thing if I may, we're working with the town manager in the town to hold town meeting for Mount Desert, and I'm pleased with the progress, and I hope there'll be some announcements very, very soon as to when that will be conducted. Thank you.
Yeah, thank you for doing that, Mark. So we're on to action items. We have 2 action items, the nomination and election of a teacher, and then the leave of absence. So we'll start with the nomination and election of teacher, which I know went out earlier under the agreement with the superintendent during our summer, but here we are meeting, so.
So I'm pleased to nominate Mr. Ben Mako. Ben obviously may not be a strange name to you. Ben is a very accomplished and successful teacher at the Connors Emerson School presently. And my recommendation and nomination is for Ben to fill the math position at Mount Desert. And I'd like to turn it over to Gloria because the committee may want to know, okay, why would an individual very successful at a successful school want to transition to Mount Desert? Why are they interested? So Gloria, if I may, in support of this nomination, I'd like to turn it over to you, please. You're muted. Sorry. I know that I do it all the time.
I didn't want my typing to bother you guys. Well, I don't want to speak for Mr. Mako, but reflecting upon the interview process with Ben and the interview committee, we stated our priorities for this school year, which included transitioning to the middle school model where we're doing some integrated learning, focusing on the development of an advisory program that I spoke of earlier, which really speaks to the social and emotional unique needs of adolescents. And Mr. Mako expressed great interest and experience with that. And it's a great fit. And we're very excited to have Dr. Gauss nominate Mr. Mako for this position. And we think that he's going to be a very welcome addition to MDES and have a great positive impact on our students.
So, Mark, we, again, under the agreement we have in the summertime for hiring faculty, we also do an official vote.
Yes, sir.
Okay, so we need to vote on this. It's an action item. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I mean, in this instance, whether or not I issued a contract or not, it would come back to the school committee. So we would either be having you hold this vote now or in August, September.
Yeah, no, I'm comfortable that we hold this now. We've gone through the official process anyway, so we just need a motion to accept this nomination.
I move that we accept the nomination for, what's his first name? Matt?
Ben,
Mako, for the math position currently open.
Second it.
Second, so we have a motion by Kate, a second by Teresa. There's no other questions or discussion. We'll take that to a vote. We'll start with Kate. Kate?
Approved.
Teresa?
Approved.
And I approve as well, so that's unanimous. So congratulations, Ben, and welcome.
thank you.
That's a great addition to MDES. Thanks.
That's a great team.
And so now we are on to the leave of absence.
Yes.
And so I don't know, is that, Mark, is that you?
Please, if I may, I would like to, this was an adjustment to the agenda. On this past Sunday, I received an email from a teacher, Mariah Baker. And if I may, I'd like to read this into the record. And Gloria, you don't have to type this. I can provide you with a link. Todd, may I read the letter?
Please do.
Dr. Gauss, I know the district is working very hard to secure a strategy that will consider all of the safety measures for staff and children to go back to school. I wish I could say that I'm optimistic we'll be able to return to school full time without a juggle of partly remote or fully remote. But the resurgence of COVID-19 around the country and the unlikely event that MDI is spared further cases due to extensive out-of-state travel, I don't see how a full year of in-person instruction is likely for the coming year. Given this reality and the fact that we both have a first grader and a kindergartner in our household, balancing my role as an educator and parent weighs heavily on my family's mind. In the spring, my family, like many, did the best we could juggling with schedules during remote learning. As an educator in the district, I'm very proud of what MDES staff and families were able to accomplish. Still, given the district's needs to assure safety and the realities of early education, any plausible scenario will surely be suboptimal for children of this age to learn using remote platforms. I am seriously concerned that the next school year will be a detriment to our children's early education. Considering these factors, I'm asking to be granted a leave of absence for the 2020-2021 school year, with a return to employment in the 2021-2021 school year. This is a very difficult decision to make because I want nothing more than to continue teaching at Mount Desert Elementary School. In making this decision now, I'm in hopes to give our school ample time to find a replacement. Thank you for considering Mariah Baker. And I would like to add that per the collective bargaining agreement with our Teachers Association, our common contract that is currently in place, it's on our website under the staff file cabinet, Article 7, Section O, page 22, and I quote, leave of absence for up to a period of 1 year with or without pay may be granted at the sole discretion of the committee to any teacher for any reasons which in the judgment of the committee are profitable to the school system or essential to the well-being of the teacher. In this instance, given the letter from Mariah and the contract, I respectfully recommend approval of this 1 year leave of absence, unpaid salary and benefits for this teacher. And I would like to add that I don't think it was the intent, but I appreciate this teacher stepping up unsolicited in recognizing the very difficult decision and placing her family first, but also ensuring that she has made it clear that her profession is important to her. Her students are important to her staff, her school. We have some very difficult decisions ahead of us. And our expectation a few weeks ago with our school year staff was that they return if deemed safe to do so, and they have. I have to say, in respect to Mariah's request and requests that may come forward, including support staff, teachers, administrators, all of us, if it's safe for students to return, it'll be our expectation for staff to return. And if people don't feel comfortable in doing so, the contract and our process allows for them to consider a leave of absence if that is best for them and their family. So with that, I would respectfully request that the school committee approve this 1 year unpaid leave of absence request for Mariah Baker for the 2020 and 2021 school year.
Thank you.
I have a question. What was Mariah's position with the school?
That's a great question. Mariah was teaching a second and third grade multi-age class this past year and was slated to be our straight third grade teacher for the upcoming school year. We have a grade level, one class per grade level for the upcoming year, K through 4.
Okay.
So it's third grade.
Teresa, any questions? No?
Well, I just, does this mean that they will publish the position? Or do you have enough on staff that someone can slide into that position?
That's a great question, Teresa, but the answer to that question is that, so what happens first of all, if the school committee approves the request, Mariah will be eligible to return to her position if she chooses to do so. And there'll be a time frame and a letter that she would receive from me if the request is approved. And that's generally, I believe, in the April, May timeframe. So we would know in advance. If somebody on staff would like to be in that position, they are welcome or encouraged to apply for that position. Because if you think about this for a second, and Gloria and I talked about this, and we've looked at this historically over time, that there could in fact be a cascade effect on positions. And so obviously, if anybody at Mount Desert Elementary School wants to be considered for that slot, they can and will be granted an interview and will be considered. But that would open up another slot too. So it could have a continued domino effect if we don't go through the application process.
Right, of course. Okay, thank you.
All right, one other question. Not that this is going to happen, but what if we get to September and it's clear that we can do mostly in-person learning and, for the upcoming year, and suddenly Mariah's thinking, "Ooh,
Yep.
I made a mistake." Is she kind of stuck with her decision once she's made it?
The short
Gloria?
answer is this is a 1-year leave of absence request, and we cannot pull the rug out from Mariah or anybody else. So we would honor this for a 1-year agreement. We would expect her to honor it. However, if opportunities within Mount Desert Elementary or our district became available, we would certainly work with her and anybody else.
Yeah.
But the answer to your question is, Kate, this is for 1 year, and there's no coming back to it. It's a 1-year period.
Gotcha.
Gloria?
I did, when Mrs. Baker reached out to me, we talked about that. I produced that same exact scenario. She's aware, and I'm happy to hear Dr. Gauss saying that if there are other things that do pop up and she does become available and situation presents itself. She's a remarkable educator. She's very thoughtful. She did a remarkable job with the students during this remote learning period. And this is a big deal, and she doesn't take it lightly. And for her wanting to return means a lot because she has a big impact on her kids. So
Part of my recommendation is we don't want to lose this educator.
Yeah.
No.
She's amazing.
So we do need to vote yet. I guess I would like to say that, Gloria, you have a great staff of teachers and support staff there. This is difficult times. There's a lot of difficult decisions that people need to make as we're going forward. And I expect that there's a lot of people making decisions like this or having conversations like this at home in all kinds of professions. So I'm glad that this has come forward and we're able to address this the way we're going to address it. And hopefully this all works out for the best for everybody. So we do need to take this to a vote if we're ready.
I move that we accept the leave of absence as proposed by Mariah Baker.
May I
Or do we need to
Second.
change the wording?
May I, Mr. Chair, clarify one piece?
Yes.
Kate, I don't want to influence your motion, but is that paid or unpaid?
Oh, unpaid. Thank you. Yeah,
Thank you.
unpaid.
Second, Teresa? Is that correct? Yeah, okay. So we have a motion made by Kate. We have a second done by Teresa. If there's any further questions or discussion? No, well, we'll take that to a vote. Kate,
Approved.
Teresa,
Approve.
and I approve as well. So that's unanimous, Gloria. And again, we have a lot of great teachers and faculty throughout the AOS, and I think it's important that we figure these things out for all of us as we go forward. So thank you, Mark.
Thank you. Thank you for your support, and I appreciate the conversation around this piece, because I anticipate this is going to be larger than Mariah, larger than Mount Desert Elementary, and larger than the AOS.
I agree. And the question of what do we do if things change as we get closer to school? That's a very good question. And I'm sure, I know that the two of you will probably already had that in the back of your minds to consider. So, yeah, thank you. So, Teresa?
I think one of the other challenges that may come up if this gets worse is what will happen if so many educators have a similar attitude and then we don't have enough educators for the students. Is this also being a consideration in case?
That's certainly, I'd be less than candid if I didn't tell you those are the types of questions that keep me awake at night. But I'll just say this, Teresa. It's a valid question. It's on my mind. But I don't want any teacher, any parent, any of my friends, any of my colleagues, anybody I work for or work with to think that we're trying to compromise anybody's health or safety. If we think it's safe for kids to return, there shouldn't be a different level of scrutiny for staff or for the general public. And that's the way I've looked at this from day one. That's the way I'm going to continue to look at it. And if I'm wrong about that, a lot of people I work for are going to hold me accountable for that. So, and I hope they do. So I'm going to continue to look at it from that lens, because it's a really tough question to answer. And I'm not trying to evade it. It's just, I think Todd said it best. We all got to do what's best for our families and for our kids, but it's going to look different for all of us. It really will. And there are some tough questions ahead, but you know what? Since March, we've dealt with some tough stuff, and we're resilient, and we'll get through this. And the way we get through it is working together and having conversations.
Thank you, Mark. And you're right, the communication is important. If there's one thing we've learned, communication is extremely important during this, and things change often. And so having that communications is really important. So thank you.
Thank you.
We do not have any other business listed, unless anyone has anything they need to add at this time. No, okay. We have another section for public comment, but of course we didn't have any earlier, so I didn't expect any now. Future agenda items. I'd like to put the food service program back up there for another agenda item, and to clarify, some of that is my questions, just to make sure, to see how we did in the spring, which personally I think sounds like we did a great job taking care of families and students in the spring with food. And I wanted to make sure that we're giving you all the resources you need to continue that service in the fall, if need be. Okay. So are there any other future agenda items that we want to put on?
I think, Todd, the items that we talked about tonight are going to be standing items for the next several months.
Okay. So the next time and date would be August 5th at 4 p.m. I think we just leave that as be. And if we need to, we'll readjust that. Okay. Sure. And one thing I have, voting for the remainder, because I'd like to get that, I always like to have that taken care of now. So I have voting as Heather, Kate, and Teresa. Okay? So we do have an AOS and high school meeting Monday, the 13th. So that will be our voting. So we're at the bottom of the agenda, unless we have anything else to add, but the only thing we have left is a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
All right. Thank you, guys.